amazing sports parents out there. This specific episode is dedicated exactly to you guys because today on the line, what we have is we do not have an Olympic athlete or an Olympic pitcher. What we have is an amazing mom who's dedicating her time not only to her full-time employment, but to her amazing daughter who plays, on an elite travel team, who's getting recruited, but who's also going to tell us about how she balances her time. So she's making it so that she fits in time, so her own fitness isn't on the back burner and her own health isn't on the back burner, because that's something really, really important. And she actually won my first challenge group.
Yeah.
The $25 spa gift card.
I still have to use that.
Which, that's, of course, the problem of not having any time. But this means that she's committed to herself as well, because by bettering ourselves, that's how we better our children. So let's just talk a little bit about, because right now you have a daughter who's not only going through the recruiting process and playing for an elite team, but also who's been injured. So let's just talk a little bit about the time commitment that takes and how you balance that into your daily schedule.
Well, her time commitment on a weekly basis is pretty much just, sorry about the dog, between the practicing and is probably 4 days a week, not what she does on her own. So between lessons, team practice, and then we're also traveling to New Jersey every weekend because that's where she's practicing. So that's about, just in commuting, is about 5 hours plus whatever time she's playing there. And then, of course, whatever she's doing on her own, we fill in the gaps with. Somewhere in there, we find time to try to do the recruiting process with, researching schools, and that's a little overwhelming, I think, especially at her age, because, you're not focused yet. You're looking at so much, trying to find where is going to be the right fit for her. Also, we don't know where she'll end up at that, at some point. And then, of course, work, which my job is pretty demanding. And then, like you said, my stuff that I fit in, I'm always trying to train for something. So that's part of how I balance it, is that I give myself a goal. Running has been my thing, so I give myself a goal, whether it's training for a half marathon or a marathon or even just a 10K. That forces me to have a schedule so that I do things for myself in between all of that.
And when do you find you're getting most of your training in so that you can work in some time for you and you can make healthy choices, healthy decisions?
The morning. I get up an extra hour earlier so that I can do what I have to do for myself. Because after work, between my husband and myself is Rebecca's time. And then, of course, right now it's the summer, so it's a little bit easier. She has her days free, but, when school fits in there, too, and the things that she has for that. So, and I only have one, so I don't know. I know there are people that do it with multiple children who play multiple sports and work jobs, so I find it, I always talk to other parents, and when they tell me they have, kids that are playing 2 and 3 sports, and they have 2 and 3 kids that are playing that, I envy them, because it's hard. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of planning. You have to have a schedule. And you also have to have, as parents, both parents have to be willing to take part of that commitment. It can't just be one parent, because there's just not enough time. And my husband is also an active golfer, so he's got his things. But the nice thing is he actually now works from home 1 day a week. So that's actually been really huge. We plan a lot of stuff on Wednesdays when he's home.
See, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think is really, really important for parents in terms of scheduling time, is that I found with my foster children, literally the only way I could get anything done is to wake up like at least an hour earlier. And that's your time to work out, and if you don't have an hour, the thing about a program like T25 or Insanity Max 30, something like that, is that you really only need 25 to 30 minutes every day. So if I can't get up that hour early, then you can do that. And I just want to bring out to the world right now that Kim lost about 7 pounds already doing this, which is amazing. And I think also you've made a huge commitment in terms of using Shakeology, in terms of using all the stuff that's available to you in the Beachbody program. Yeah, oh my God,
Well, it's not. It's Shakeology, but I also changed my eating.
Yes.
I've tried to go more plant based. I'm not completely there. It's hard. It's a big transition. You know, especially when you like certain things, like a hamburger or something.
Yeah.
I haven't had one in a long time, but that's also a commitment. Is eating well. And if you go through my house right now, you really won't find any. That was a big change for us, is to take all the junk out. Not that we don't have it occasionally, but we buy it, we eat what we want, and that's it. It's only the one time. So, you know, we have a day like a Saturday or something. We might go for Italian ice, or something that we do that we do try to have that stuff. But even with Rebecca, because she probably has the worst eating habits of all of us. I think you remember the time she had the orange fingers, and you asked her if it was iodine. She told you it was Cheetos, and you said you had wished she had told you it was a bad iodine experiment.
Yes.
So,
because as athletes, that's not fueling us properly. But we also know that as teenagers, I think it's tougher almost than when they're children, because with my foster children, I think it'd be very easy for me to say, okay, you have limited exposure. The people that I'm exposing you to also eat very well. You know what I mean? It's not like you're in high school and you have 10 different friends and you have less control over what they're doing. And then
and the other thing with having someone who plays at her level and is as committed as she is to getting better, you're constantly on the go.
Yes.
So eating healthy is hard. I mean, it's really hard. But I go to work, and I work with a lot of younger people, and I walk in with literally a sack of food every day. And they're all going to Taco Bell and Subway, and they'll ask me every day, do you want something? I'm like, no, I don't eat that garbage. I can't eat that stuff. So a few people have actually started bringing their lunch because they tell me I make them feel bad. But, it's the only way to stay committed is to have food in the house. It was funny. Rebecca had some of her friends over the other day, and one of the girls ordered Chinese food into my house. And I said to Rebecca, there's plenty of food in the house. And she said, Mom, they don't eat cardboard. I said, but maybe they should. So there was food here, but nothing that they would eat. So, it's a whole lifestyle change that we've all made, committed to exercise, because Rebecca does also, committed to her sport and, her goals. It's a constant conversation that we have probably at least once a week about how we're all committed to this, because it gets stressful. It gets stressful for all of us, including her. And again, then committing to eating healthy. It's a lot more work than going out to McDonald's drive-through on your way someplace.
But something I want to bring up to parents out there is notice, especially the younger you work with your children, you have to keep in mind with these elite athletes that you're fueling them. So in terms of if you have a 5 and a 6-year-old and you start them eating healthy at that age, they're going to fidget about it for like a month or so, and then they're going to get over it. When you are starting older, it's much harder. And you really have to try and nix all those bad habits as soon as possible.
I think the key, though, with kids is not making McDonald's taboo. If they want to have a McDonald's French fries, and that's their thing, and they want to do that, Rebecca likes Chick-fil-A, which when we come home from lessons is on the way home. So, every once in a while she'll say, can I get chicken nuggets it's real chicken, at least. It's not like the McDonald's stuff. And if that's what she wants, I do it. I don't want to make it taboo, because then it's like anything. When you take it away from them, and like you said, they're exposed to all these kids eating and whatever, really garbage most of the time. I'd rather her have it once in a while and feel like she can have it if she wants it, but then the rest of the time making better choices. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle with a 14. Well, she's 15 now.
Yes,
I struggle with a 15-year-old. I mean, they tend to want to do what their friends do. But I think overall she does make better choices. And being injured, I stress the importance of her with eating when she was coming through that broken arm and healing. You have to eat better.
Yes, and I think that's a really, really important point, because having been through my own injury and really done made some not so great choices when I was a little bit older than Becca, I can see where doing the right thing, eating wise, and making sure you have the right therapies and things like that are that just expedites the recovery process. And it also puts your mind in a better place, because if you've read anything regarding like nutrition, if you've read anything regarding like it all affects your mood. And whenever you're injured, any athlete can attest to this at any level, whenever you're injured, you are almost automatically depressed. Like, because you can't do what you love and you see other people doing what you love.
Yes, I've been through it. I've been going through it myself for a year. I finished a huge event that I did for charity. We did it's called the Dopey Races in Disney. And it was a 5K, then a 10K, then a half, and then a full in 4 days. And I took 2 weeks off of running just to recover, because it's a lot of training. It was 5 days a week of training. And that was hard because Rebecca was in the height of fall ball. That I was starting that, and 5 days a week of training. So when I finished after 2 weeks, I went back on the treadmill because it was snowy out. So I went on the treadmill and I was like, "Wow, I have some pain in my leg." And it just got progressively worse over 3-4 months, to the point where I was running one day. I was actually out on a run, and I called my husband to pick me up because I couldn't finish it. And it turns out I had a really bad tendinitis in my gluteal tendon, and I have hip bursitis. The tendinitis is over. Physical therapy was phenomenal and helped me with that. That was Jeff. And but the bursitis persists. But now I told you I've been doing this yoga and a lot more stretching and things like that, because I tried the injection and it didn't work. And it just, I had a cortisone injection, which was like a last-ditch effort, but it actually did nothing. So this has actually been a lot better doing this. This is not something that I tried initially.
I have to say, much to your point, like the cortisone injections, a lot of the time, what you have to talk to your doctor about is sometimes they do weaken the structure and they don't work for everyone. So I definitely think, like, especially the way that the Beachbody program is set up in terms of yoga, you can specifically work like, okay, your hips and being more aware of that. That's really, really helpful. I also am a huge fan of acupuncture when it comes for things like pain. Because sometimes you just need that little bit extra to get over that last part of the injury, and it just does make a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing ART with Rebecca with her arm as she's getting back into throwing and stuff like that, and she actually said it was helping her more than the physical therapy with the tightness and stuff. So
absolutely, yeah, like ART, I feel like the ART is just something that it just brings it to a whole another level in terms of the expediting recovery and things like that. So that's really, really amazing. But let's talk a little bit about the recruiting process, just to give people an idea out there, because I think a lot of people think, oh, you're 15, like you really don't have to think about the recruiting process. But no. That's not true at all.
And it's funny because, we started last year, and she has actually had 2 wrist injuries as you know, over the winter, which wasn't so bad. She was able to still pitch. But this one in April, which she's still recovering from, and she's losing almost a majority. I mean, even though she's playing, she's not playing her position. And for recruiting, she really only wants to be a pitcher. I mean, that's her love of the game. She loves the game, but she absolutely loves pitching. And she said that to me, that's where she wants to be. So it's been very hard, because this is a key year for her. This summer was supposed to be her biggest summer, where she was to improve and get in front of many people. And she's still going to do that. It just may not be at her as a pitcher. I feel like I see kids her age, especially on an elite team, that are committed. Some of them have been committed actually since last year. That's hard for me to grasp. It was hard for me to grasp. But no, and even she feels like she's a little behind because of the injury this summer. So it definitely is something that you can't wait. And it's overwhelming because there is so much information. And like most people will say, well, my daughter doesn't know what they want to do in 8th or 9th grade. They don't. They probably shouldn't. But they're going to go to college. They may have a field that they're slightly interested in, and that can help to focus you on where you need to be looking. I mean, we have a list of schools that schools that are reach schools athletically that she would love to go to. maybe she won't make them. Then we have schools that we think are better fit for her. And then schools that she probably could make if, and she'd be happy with also. So, that's kind of how we've made that list. Academically, she's a good student, so I don't think that we'll have too much trouble there. But, some of the things, we've looked at are the Ivies like Columbia. I don't know if those might be a reach for her academically.
But it's always hard to tell with Ivies, guys, because remember they recruit a little bit later because they need those SAT, ACT scores. And that's an important thing to realize. So
but we're making the relationships. We're meeting the people, and that's all that matters right now. Is also the fit of the coaches. She's met a couple of coaches through some camps and things that she's gone to that she really likes. Unfortunately, we were supposed to be in Colorado. This would have been a huge recruiting thing for her, but because of the risks, we opted not to do that. But she does have some other showcases that she's going to participate in this coming weekend and two throughout July that are a little more low-key, but it's still part of getting her out there.
And it's still getting you into that mentality of you get into a showcase because what you don't want to happen is you don't want that first showcase to be so overwhelming and you're like nervous and you freeze. You have to get used to the idea that you're going to be exposed. And the nice thing about doing it a little bit earlier is, number one, you're not in a panic where it's like your junior year and, oh my God, because if this had been her junior year where she'd been injured, we would be really panicked.
We still panicked a little bit. Because, we had so much, we had so many things that she was committed to and then having to back out of them because, for the majority of April, May, and even the beginning of June, she really couldn't even swing a bat. So, but now that's all coming back. And the pitching we're going to start back hopefully next week with everything will be, good. And she's been working on it. That's the other thing. Even through the injury, she did not do anything. It would have been very easy for her to sit and, not exercise, not work on anything related to softball, and also not even think about the college process. But we've been keeping on top of all of that stuff on some level. She had I have to say, she had a little bit of time, I would say probably 3 weeks, and I think you and I even spoke about it, where she was really struggling. Because the whole thing was just devastating.
Oh, it's just too much. It's just too much. But this is where you're also very smart. And, early on when you decided, okay, this is something she wanted to do, you did. I was like, just do a college video right away because you can always do another one. And I'm sure you will do another one. But this is why, guys, people wait all the time to do recruiting videos because they're like, oh, I want to be perfect. You know what? If you're always waiting for it to be perfect and you're constantly procrastinating and then you get hurt, you're screwed. You have to do it. You have to be like, okay, this is pretty good. Let's do it. And then, you can say if the coach sees that and then, a year and a half later you make another one and the other one you're like that much better, great. But if the coach is asking for one and you know what? I've been hurt for 3 months. And then when you first come back for that injury, you're not going to be 100%. I mean, I just think thank God that we did that video.
Right. And I also have some other videos that I've pieced together that I'm actually going to put on YouTube over the winter that she was pitching that are actually, she was faster because she had gained so much speed than that video that we did in the fall. But so between that, you can kind of see her progression. And so she's got a couple of months off, 2.5, 3 months off, and then, back. But as you know, when she even just tried to get back a couple of weeks ago, she didn't really lose that much.
Because she worked so hard the whole time while she was injured. And plus now she's been eating better. So that's a huge part of it. A huge part of it. So I'm not worried about that. But we'll stay on after we hang up so that we can talk a little bit more about the recruiting stuff specifically to back up.
Okay.
But I also, what I just wanted to ask is if there's anything in particular, especially for parents who are feeling like really overwhelmed out there and where they're, trying to juggle all these things that you are managing to juggle. Like, how do you keep your own, how do you keep your sanity and how do you feel like at the end of the day, like, okay, I feel accomplished and I feel like I've done, for my family and I've also done for myself?
Well, I would love to tell you that every day I feel that way, but I don't. When I hit everything in a day, I feel really good. You know, I do a lot of times put the things that I need in front of everything else. So I know that, some days I have to kind of take a step back and say, okay, well, I have to do this for Rebecca and I have to do this for my family. But there are some days that I say, you know what, I need to get out and I need to exercise and I need to run. But in order for me, like I said, I've always signed up for races. That's kind of kept me focused on my fitness, because if I have something to train, I'm not competitive with others. I'm competitive within myself. So if I'm going to run a 5K, I want to do better this time than I did the time before. So that keeps me focused on that. As far as my family, my husband and I really do work very well together. We do a lot of things together, and we also share in the responsibility. So sometimes we both come to lessons with her, and other times we can't. But he cooks, so he's better at that than I am. I do the grocery shopping. I do all the stuff to keep my house organized, and it's hard. I mean, it really is hard, and there are sometimes I don't get to go to bed until 11:30 at night because I'm doing stuff to make sure that we are organized, that I make sure that we have food to eat that's healthy, so that when we get up in the morning and everybody's got to take their lunch and they leave, we don't, we're not leaving with $5 so we can buy fast food. And then it's like a day-to-day thing. I have a routine. I mean, I try to get up at between 5 and 5:30 every day to do my stuff, and that's exercise, go to the gym or do something here or go out for a run. I also, to keep myself in fitness, I have friends that I do things with, because if I make a commitment to meet somebody, I'm not going to hit my alarm. So that's really, really helps to stay focused. I have a group of friends that I run with, but I also have a good friend that I meet at the gym. We'll take a spin class together or things like that. That keeps us focused. And we constantly are texting each other. What did you guys do today? So it holds us accountable, kind of like doing your program has that accountability. I like having something to be accountable on a daily basis.
You're actually having two people that you have to answer to every day, because I'm going to text you every day and be like, what kind of work I have to do? And your friend is also going to text.
Right. Well, we also sometimes complain. Oh, I worked out today. My back is killing me. This is hitting me. Our little things. But it's also nice, like, to have somebody to meet to run with, because I have somebody to talk to, and it's nice, like I said. So that helps.
It's like therapy and exercise.
It really is. I mean, run 20 miles with a friend. That's a long time to be together, and supportive of each other. So that's been very, very helpful for me. And I think, Rebecca's a pretty independent kid, so she does a lot for herself and always has. Both of my kids were like that. So that also helps. I'm not one of those parents who has to do everything for them. I don't, they're pretty self-sufficient.
But that's important, though.
Yeah.
That's really important, because you're going to send a kid off to college, to do sports at a high level, and they're coming from a household where everything is done for them. No, that doesn't fly. And
that doesn't work here.
No.
I mean, it just can't be. It just can't be. With my husband and I both he works in New Jersey. That's another thing. He leaves. He's out of the house before I even get up at 5 a.m. and doesn't get home until 6 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So, he does not going to come home and do a lot for her when at night. And I just believe in being self-sufficient. I mean, my parents taught us to be that way, so both of my kids are. I always say that if I dropped my kids in the middle of nowhere, they'd be fine and figure it out how to get back home.
I mean, I think this is probably the biggest, most important point of the day, is because so many parents feel like if they don't do everything for their kids, they feel like they're being selfish. But you are equipping your children to do better. Like, I feel like I have a couple of kids who are going on to play at a higher level, and they can't keep their schedule straight, or mom and dad are always trying to do things for them and things like that. And it's like, you are going to have a rough wake-up call.
You're going to have a hard time.
You are going to have a really hard time, because, if you can't communicate with your own coach at college, number one, that's a major issue, because mom and dad start calling your college coach, we are going to have huge problems.
I don't do that.
And number two, you realize you're going to have to be getting up at 5 o'clock for lifts. You know what I mean? And you're going to have to schedule that in between your classes and everything else. So I think probably the biggest take home, like you just hit it. It's like a beautiful thing. I hope all you guys are listening out there is you have to do for yourself, and you have to let your kids do things for themselves. Every age, I don't care how old the kid is, needs some responsibility. Even if it's just like, I know with my foster children, I was like, your shoes always belong in the same place. Your clothes belong in the laundry.
Put your laundry away.
Like, I don't care if you put that dish in the dishwasher upside down, backwards, and whatever, you're going to try to do it. You know what I mean? Like, because if you don't give kids responsibility, you're constantly doing things for them, how are they ever going to bloom as people? You know,
I also think that, back to what you said before, is that if you don't take time for yourself, you don't teach your children how to take care of themselves if you constantly take care of them. So I always feel like one of the things I've taught my kids is that, you know, to have priorities and to take care of myself, because I work really hard at doing that. Yeah. And there's been times where one of my kids will say, can you do something for me? And I say, no, I have to go here. I'm going running. I'm going to the gym. I have plans. I take vacation without my kids. I know people that don't do that. My husband and I take time for just the both of us. We, take vacation. But I'm also not one of those parents who would do my kids' homework. I'm not, I feel like I'd rather see you fail the test because you didn't prepare for it than me prepare for you. What did I teach you? I teach you that if you don't prepare, you fail.
I mean, I love that. Parents, look at this amazing woman, you see? And remember, the other thing, guys, is we're not talking about being perfection. We're talking about, you are doing the best you can every day for yourself and for your children, so you're not feeling completely burned out. I mean, if you can look at this and you could say, like, yes, Kim has an overwhelming schedule and she works a crazy job full time, but look at how she's managing to make like this amazing life for her family and give her daughter all of these amazing opportunities. So I think this has been just so helpful. I think that so many people will really just benefit from this. So thank you so much.
I hope, like I said, it's not perfect. I think that we do a decent job in my house. I guess, how my kids turn out will be the ultimate test if that's true or not.
Her children are wonderful.
One, and I'm working on number 2. So.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that at all. Becca is wonderful, and so is your older daughter. So
strong.
Yeah, and they're both strong children because, they're brought up in a household where they're made to be strong children. So that's how that goes. So I want you to stay on the line after we end just so we can talk a little bit about recruiting. But this has been wonderful.
Thank you.
Guys, if you need more about this, because I realize that this is a subject that a lot of people are going to need help on, message me, talk to that. I'm sure we can all find a way to hook up. And there are some really good groups out there on Facebook and things like that where there are other parents of athletes supporting one another, because it's not an easy road. Like you probably didn't know when you signed up, but it's not an easy road.
No idea what I was getting into.
And sometimes you have to just take it one day at a time.
Yeah. But I'm happy to help her make it wherever she wants to go. That's what I tell her. My goal is to make sure she's successful. So if this is going to be what makes her happy and her successful and gets where she wants to be, then that's what I'm here to do.
Yay! All right. So everybody reach out if you need to, and we will all hook up. And this has been wonderful, and we will see you guys soon.